Hi guys,
Hi guys.
welcome to another Faction Focus. This is our Christmas week Faction Focus, and we are going to be doing Chaos Demons.
Yeah.
Right, so just before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner so you know each time we release one of these videos. And if you would like more exclusive content, amazing discounts off our web store, or if you'd just like to support the channel, then head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. Right, so let's get into it. Aaron,
Yeah.
Chaos
hmm
Demons Faction Focus. So Aaron's been playing quite a lot of demons. Aaron's been using demons quite a lot with the new book. He's taken them to a few events as well, the demons, but I have only used them in battle reports really, and I quite like them. I think they're very good. I've seen how they've been doing in tournaments, across the country and also in the US quite a bit,
Yeah.
and they've been doing well. The demons have been doing well. They do have quite a bit of a toolbox. However, I will say, because what we're going to do, guys, here, we're going to structure this how we normally do, like which god is the best god, mono,
Yeah.
which gods are being seen more in the competitive scene, which gods are being
They're like
seen
sub
less.
factions, right?
Yeah, so we will be structuring like that, but also I do want to say a mix
Mm.
seems to be the way to go. Like it
Yes.
doesn't seem like mono one god for your entire army is the way to go. That doesn't seem like the optimal way. I think
Yeah.
those lists aren't performing so well, like people who are taking mono, but people who are mixing are doing very, very well.
A big reason for that being that I don't think the benefits you get of the Warp Storm
Hmm.
outweigh being able to mix all the best units from each sub faction. I think
But
what you gain
also,
from
also,
you
if you do like some of the Warp Storm, for
yeah.
example, if you like the Tzeentch one or you like the Khorne one, you
Mhm.
can make one of the detachments in your
Yes,
army pure, mono one god to gain
you can.
access to that branch of the Warp Storm. And that's where I do agree with Aaron as well. The generic ones to me are the best ones. I think the
hmm
generic Warp Storm points are the best abilities to use. However, I could see an argument if you've taken loads of combat that the Khorne one could be quite good, or if you've taken loads of shooting, then the Tzeentch
Yeah.
one could be quite good. So I could see why maybe you'd want to take one, but I don't think multiples of them, like Aaron said, are particularly useful in any
No.
scenario. So maybe one god you'd want, but that you can, like we say, you could simply do that by taking one character and one troop choice in a patrol, which would cost no command points, and then have the rest of your army in another detachment. Because you can mix. It's not
hmm
like you can't take Khorne and Tzeentch in the same detachments. You definitely can in Demons. So
Yeah.
that's one advantage this book has over everyone else. I think that is one reason it's doing so well, Aaron, because you
Yeah.
can mix, like, for example, you can't mix legions. You can't take units from different
No. No. No.
legions in the
No.
same
No.
detachment. However, these guys really can with their, with their gods. So I think that's a big advantage that demons have. What do you think?
Yeah, the fact that they get to use their stratagem so long as you have one unit in your army from that particular god is
Yeah.
is huge. Because as you say, like this book is essentially split into 4 chapters,
Yeah.
but there's literally nothing you lose for taking them in the same army. Obviously, Warpstorm, depending if you have them in a detachment or themselves or not, but apart from that, you literally just gain the benefits from whatever you want. You pick and choose within the book, and I think that's something that no other codex. Maybe we're seeing a bit with Guard now, having that
Yep.
bit more flexibility. But as we've seen with Guard, is very strong as well. So I think having this in the Demons book, I think is a very strong benefit for it. Being able to have that flexibility and options.
Yeah, I genuinely agree because, well, as we discussed last night on our Let's Talk Tactics last night, that the books look like they're going a different way now, don't they? They look like
Yes,
they're more
tenth edition.
streamlined. There's less options in books and stuff like that now. So for the demons to have come out just before this is about to change with everybody, and they've got the most option, I think that might be a sign of why they continue doing well in the meta as well. Not just why they have been doing well, but why they continue to
Yeah,
do well too.
for sure,
So
for sure.
let's talk a bit about these gods, shall we?
Oh
I
yeah,
think
Chaos
the Book
Gods.
of Blood is the
Yep, here
first.
we are.
Yeah, the Book of Blood is the first book in
Mm.
of the four in the of the five in this
The
book,
five
because
books,
we
yeah.
have a
Oh god.
yeah, we have like an undivided book. But the Book of Blood is the first one of the 5 in the codex, and arguably the best one. It is one
Yeah.
of the best, for sure. I
Yeah.
think, for me, it's between the Book of Blood and also the Tzeentch one, the Book
Yeah.
of
The
Change.
Book of Change.
So to me, it's between the Book of Blood and the Book of Change. I think those two are the best ones. And if you do look at a lot of the armies, the lot of the lists that have been doing well in tournaments across the globe, they have been a mixture of the Book of Blood and the Book of Change.
Yeah,
It
you get
is,
that
yeah.
Khorne, and then the Tzeentch additions, or the best part of Tzeentch, basically.
Yeah, it's usually some like counterpunch, like 20, 30, sometimes even 40 bloodletters, and Scarbrand, Bloodthirster perhaps, and then the rest of it usually
Yep.
like a Fate Skimmer, 3 units of Flamers, 1 or 2 Screamer units. Those are the kind of things that we're seeing, and that's what's doing well in the meta right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think that is, Aaron? What's so special about this Book of Blood then?
So I think the Book of Blood, as you said, like the two best units as counterpunch in the book, and the two best units that Khorne have access to are the Bloodletters and the Bloodthirster, or Scarbrand, depending. And they're both heavily pushed in, obviously, in the Book of Blood. Obviously, you got the exalted abilities starting out with the Bloodthirster. Being able to have a phase cap Bloodthirster means that he's very hard to take down, especially coming in from manifestation. It just
some
makes it.
armies just cannot deal with it.
Some armies
Like, for
can't deal with
example,
it. No,
Tau,
at
like
all.
an army
Yeah.
like Votann or Tau, where the majority of their damage is done in a single phase,
Yeah.
the shooting phase. When you've got something that's phase capped like this, it's going to be very hard to deal with, especially because those armies do their damage in the shooting phase. Once the Bloodthirster is in, you're now fighting it. And that's not where you do the majority of your damage. So I can see why some armies as well just can't even deal with it at all.
Yeah, and a big thing is that as well. Talking about Scarbrand and the Bloodletters is the idea of not being able to fall back.
Oh, yes.
Both these units,
Yes.
both with the Bloodletters in terms of the Warp Storm for Khorne, and then Scarbrand's own ability, getting into a shooting heavy unit or an army where maybe they don't have quite as much counterpunch to deal with a Thirster, when you then can't fall back from them, I think that makes these two units really, really powerful. Especially going into certain armies, as you mentioned, Tau and Votann, which we are seeing in the top.
Oh,
so
yes, we are.
having these units be able to really push and sway that matchup quite a bit is one of the reasons I think they're doing very well.
Awesome. That's good. I also think that their some of their strats are pretty good. Like the Banner of Blood, I really like. And I think this is kind of like a sign of things to come. For example, like there are no generic stratagems. There are no, stratagems that every demon can use. There's nothing like that. There's only god-specific ones, right? So, like Khorne only have 6 stratagems instead of like 30. But this is something we're seeing now, like what we spoke about last night on Let's Talk Tactics about the World Eaters. Guys, if you're not an elite member and you want to know about all these kind of things, like we say, the exclusive content that you sign up for is where we talk about a lot of these things in the meta, things to come and stuff like that. It's for elite members only, and the last one was last night. So if you want to hear all about it, what's coming in the World Eaters and chapter approved, then join the elite guys and go and watch it back because it was a fun one. But yeah, so if that's a sign of things to come, this has kind of followed, that pattern. And Chaos Daemons is one of the last few books that have come out. Like, God have come out, but they were scheduled a long time ago. The Votann have come out, but they were also scheduled for before they came out. So I think Demons is the one that should have been the latest book, essentially.
I think this is the scheduled last 9th codex before World Eaters, but obviously, whatever we're seeing through World Eaters, especially what GW have shown and stuff, it very much seems like it's almost like a 10th edition style codex. Yes. So this does seem to be the last 9th edition army codex, but and we can see it's very different.
You can see from this, it's looking very different to the rest of the 9th edition codex, and it's looking a lot more like the World Eaters things, that we've seen. So that is something that's going to come in the future game now. I've heard from a lot of sources that's what's coming. So that is quite interesting. But some of the strats they have, like quite a lot of them, in my opinion, in the Demon book, are not that great.
No,
Stratagems in the Demon book are not that great. Yeah, there's only a couple that you'd be using, but like for example, the Banner of Blood is very useful when
Oh
you
yeah.
when you're using manifestation and you're bringing some of your combat units in from reserve, like bloodletters and stuff like that. This is great for bloodletters. You can use it on a Demonica Khorne icon unit. When they're selected to charge, and when you roll the charge, you can roll an additional dice and discard the lowest. So
Yeah.
quite often you're coming in people's leadership away. However, if you manage to get within 6 of enemy units, you can use the you can
Warcloakers.
yeah, you can no, sorry, not the warplow, because you
Oh,
can use
oh,
the
the extra
ability.
minus 20. Yeah.
Yeah, because you minus one off them because of the demonic rule. That's the one, the
Yeah.
demonic rule. But then also you have the warp storm ability called Prime Evil Terror, which is when you're
Hmm.
within 6 of people, it doubles the effect essentially of demonic. So they are -2 to their leadership. So
Yeah.
quite often you're coming in people's leadership away -2. Now people's leadership is normally 8 or 9 these days, so you're coming in 6 or 7 inches away. Now, making a 6 or 7 inch charge on 3d6, picking the two highest, is actually very reliable. Very
Yes.
reliable. So that stratagem is one of the reasons I think Khorne are doing so well, because it means you can come in and you can reliably get charges off with those types of
Yes.
units. So I
Yeah,
quite
and
like that.
obviously icons are free now in the unit, so you're not paying anything for it. It's just standard what you have. You have
Yeah,
access to the stratagem, which is really good.
but also like relics and warlord traits. This book you can only take one warlord trait. Now,
Yeah.
this is one of the only books where you can take a single warlord trait, right? And it does hamper you a lot, guys. Like, I would argue that you'd be really well off taking like a bloodthirster plus a lord of change plus a keeper of secrets, and that would be a great and awesome army if each
Yeah.
one of them could have a warlord trait and a relic.
Mm.
But they can't. You're only allowed one warlord trait in this entire book, in your entire army, and you're not allowed another one. There is no stratagem to give a character an extra warlord trait, or to give a different character a warlord trait, like every single other book has. I think they are the only codex where you're
They
only allowed
currently
one
are,
warlord
I
trait,
think. Yeah.
which
Because they're the
sucks.
only one that just they only get one because of the Nephilim stratagem.
Yeah,
So,
kind of sucks, right? I think that kind of sucks a bit.
it means that we're dealing with a book that has essentially 6 warlord traits in every one, and then Bellicors. So like, and you only really ever see like 2,
Two, yeah, because it's
pretty
quite
much,
obvious which the ones the best ones are. So
because
like
you're
you're
so limited.
seeing, yeah, exactly. Like you see Argath, King of Blades, pretty much all the time. However, like the Blood Drinker Talisman is great as well. I think the Blood Drinker Talisman's really good. But these kind of things would come in very useful if you could take 2 Warlord traits, for example. Like
Mm,
if 2 different guys could have 2 Warlord traits, but you can't. So it that really
yeah.
hurts them a little bit. That's one thing that's holding them back from reaching their full potential, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Scarbrand, I love. I think
Yeah,
Scarbrand is
Starbrand.
great in the Book of Blood. He is absolutely awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
think Witchbane is a great rule.
Oh yeah,
He cannot
especially
be
currently.
affected by psychic powers, targeted or affected by psychic powers.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. I mean, we look at what the best current army in the game win rate is, and it is Tzeentch. It's Thousand Suns and
Thousand
Flamers
Suns,
doing
yeah.
the best. But a lot of other armies are, using psychic powers, using as, stacking up what they can with more wounds, because more wounds are very powerful. Even like the current Tyranid builds that we still see and things like that.
Because we've
Being able
seen
to
it.
just say this guy cannot be affected is
Because we've
huge.
seen it's why the Thousand Sons are doing so well.
Yeah.
Because most top factions right now have at
Mm.
least one psyker that they
Yes.
rely on. So, and that's why the Thousand Sons are doing really well, because it lets them take their Wrath of Magnus secondary. Because
Mm.
everybody's taking psychers. Now, with everybody taking psychers, if we can see that from the meta, why the Thousand Sons are doing so well, it'd be great to include something like Scarbrand in your list, knowing that a lot of armies right now rely on their psyker.
Yeah, he's a great meta call, and I think right now he's in a lot of ways better than a Bloodthirster. He is easier to kill, But I think with a lot of the matchups you'll be seeing, both shooting armies, because again, the no fallback is huge on him as well, and a lot of psycho armies, I think he's incredible for his points, for what he can give
I
you
do
in
want
your
to
army.
say he is just as tough as a Bloodthirster. The only reason he's harder to kill is he doesn't have that phase cap.
Yeah, he
That's
doesn't have
what
the
Aaron is saying there, is that because they have the same stats, you know, he has 2 extra wounds over a Bloodthirster. However, he does not have the phase cap. He doesn't have the luxury of being protected by only losing a certain amount of wounds per phase. And that's the only thing that hurts him, really. Having only a 4-up save, that hurts quite a bit, having only a 4-up save. However, it is unmodifiable.
It's a
Gets that
blessing and
save
a
all
curse.
the time. It's a blessing and a curse, yeah.
Yeah, I've used him a lot now, and there are times where he's hit by melters and everything, and you go, beautiful 4-up save, and then he's just gunned down by like bolters, and you're like, well, 4-up save.
Yeah,
And you
4-up
just
save,
hope.
yeah. It's kind of weird, isn't it, that like even the bigger, tougher monsters in this book still only have like a 4-up save, even when getting shot by like plink shots from, for example, lasguns from
Asgard's,
guardsmen.
yeah,
You know,
enough.
a unit of 10 Cadians with first rank, second rank have like 30 odd shots. Now,
Yep.
you might think, yeah, but they wound on 6s. Yeah, but every 6 to hit also automatically wounds. Now, you put full rerolls to hit on that guard unit, and all of a sudden they're rolling 5 6s. Then they're re-rolling the other 25 because you just re-roll everything. Why not? And you're re-rolling the other 25. You're going to get another 4 6s. So they've already got 9 auto wounds on this Bloodthirster before they've even rolled the wound roll. So they're going to
Yeah,
make you take about 12 to 15 saves in that area.
they're
That's a
gonna
unit of
quarter
10 guardsmen, guys. A unit of 10
10
guardsmen.
guardsmen, quarter damage
Exactly.
Scarborough by
It
themselves.
tells Scarbrand to take 12 saves. He's going to fail 6, and that's huge. To over quarter damaging him, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I think things like that are really hurting the bigger demons. Which is why I think it's great to take a balance. I
Yeah.
think right now you don't really want to be taking pure big stuff. I think you want a mix of the two because it really helps you play your secondaries very well as well. So another reason why I think demons are doing so well is their secondary
Oh,
choice
absolutely.
is phenomenal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Their secondaries are great.
Reality was one of my yeah. Like I said, Reality Rebels I think is really powerful as a secondary. But then they also have the option of like Nourished by Terror, also very good. And in an army that already can, you know, like something like Nourished by Terror and something like Reality Rebels are 2 secondaries where you want to be doing a lot of the things that they're doing to get those secondaries. You don't have to be
I
going out
agree.
of your way to do it.
Yes.
It just sort of works out, which is what makes it so easy to score.
It's kind of
in your
like
games.
as you're playing your game, those secondaries just get done.
Yeah.
You know, like
It just happen.
Yeah, they just happen. Like Reality Rebels is so easy to score on because you only have to be controlling your own half the board to get 10 points in the game. And that's it. Like if you're controlling your own half the board and you have one unit in the middle of the board, all of a sudden you're getting like 15 points. That's super easy to do.
Yeah.
And like Nourished by Terror is just killing stuff. And
Kill
you
stuff,
will
make
kill
them
stuff,
run
you know,
away.
like you'll be killing stuff to play the mission.
Yep.
So I agree with you. I think the secondaries of the demons, they just passively happen as you are playing the mission. And I think that's a fantastic thing to have, you know?
Yep.
For sure. And
yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Aaron?
No, I was going to say that's why I agree with you that having a mix of loads of different types of units in the demon army is what works best together.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to talk about is underused and underrated options, because that's a lot of people have been asking for that in the faction focuses we've done so far. So in the Book of Blood, I think Skulltaker is a bit of a gem, you know?
I was about to say, I was putting my finger on him. I love him.
For sure. I think he's a bit of like a hidden gem. He's great, you know. He can give bloodletters +1 to hit, which is great. He lets them hit on 2s. He can give them reroll wound rolls of 1, so he's making them hit on 2s. Then quite a lot of the time, the things they're going into, they're wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s now, which is absolutely fantastic. And he's great against characters because he can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls against characters, which is absolutely awesome. And he's -3, flat 3 damage, and ignores invulnerable saves. He is a character hunting monster.
He hits hard for his points.
He does.
For his points.
But also he's very tough for his points. Because he's toughness 6 with 5 wounds and a 4-up, 4-up. He has a 4-up against shooting and a 4-up in combat, and he's toughness 6 with 5 wounds. That's tough.
A character, like that's really good.
Yeah, I think he's very good. I really like Skulltaker. I think he's underrated quite a bit. He's underestimated quite a lot. And also Fleshhounds.
Yeah,
You
flesh
know?
hounds like they give you a lot of flexibility, which I like. Especially being like enabling the psychic stratagem to be on a 3-up. I think
Yeah.
is something I've always loved it for,
This thing, yeah,
because
guys, Khorne have got a stratagem where when
yeah,
your opponent casts a power, they can deny on a 4-up called Contempt for Sorcery. Now,
mhm,
it's just any unit within 24 can just deny, and it denies on a 4-up. But um, if a Fleshhound unit is using the stratagem, you get +1 to it. So
yeah,
they deny a power on a 3-up, which I think is phenomenal. And they also can attempt to deny a
yeah.
power
They have their
as
own
well.
deny as well. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that's great. That's what I think about the Book of Blood. And then we've
hmm
got the Book of Change.
but
Now the
yeah. So
Book
the
of
second,
Change, this is my favorite one. I think the
okay,
Book of Change is my favorite one. It has quite a few options. It can do different things. You can put a little bit of combat punch in there. They're very susceptible to combat, which is why I think, guys, here, like we went through the majority of Khorne there, and they had either a 4-up, 5-up, or a 4-up, 4-up. They are
hmm
very balanced saves. They have a good, reliable, solid 4-up save against pretty much anything.
yeah,
However, when you look into Tzeentch, they have a 6-up, 3-up. So
yeah.
against
It's very
shooting,
weird.
yeah, that's the thing. Against ranged weapons, they are very tough, like incredibly tough with a 3-up invert. However, when you get them in combat, they have a 6-up save, and that's the only thing between them and total annihilation. So yeah, they just have a 6-up, and this is why I think the balance needs to be there of taking Khorne for some counterpunch and Tzeentch together. I think the two work best together.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
their stratagems are also very good as well. The ones that stand out are like Magical Boon for
Mhm.
one cycle to do an extra power. It's worked
It's
really
huge,
well on like a
right?
Lord of Change or Keros Fate Weaver, letting them do like 4 powers is very big. Um, then Warp Portal is also incredible.
Yeah.
Being able to pick one of your characters up and just teleport them anywhere on the board and then do a hell of a lot of more wounds to someone in the psychic phase is just something you don't want to lose. I think that's a great tool to have in your army. Absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic.
And
Those are the
being one
main ones that jump
for
out.
like a fate skimmer
Mhm.
is so good.
Those are the main ones that jumps out. I mean, Burning Warpfire is obviously insane. Getting maximum shots on flamers with their
It's situational,
D6
but
plus
when
3 shots. But it's
yeah,
situational. That's why it's not
it
one
is.
that like jumps off the page because it's you only use it when you're hitting something that's got more than 10 models in it.
You will
So
use it.
you will use
But
it. Yeah, you will use it if you hit something with 10 more than 10 models, but it's not often that it comes up. That's why it's like it's okay. But Warp Portal and Magical Boon are the best ones there.
yeah.
Then you go on to their discipline.
Yeah,
And
this
their
is the gem.
psychic discipline
This
is
is
very good. Yes, it definitely is a gem. Guys, Bolt of Change is the best offensive power in the game.
in the game. Yeah.
Bolt of Change is
No,
the best offensive power in the game.
yeah.
Because it
Yeah, even
averagely does
Thousand
3 mortal wounds to any target.
yeah.
But then if you target 1 wound infantry models with it, it averagely kills 6.
It's crazy that like Thousand Suns need to spend a CP on the Athenian scrolls, then roll like a 9 to get half of Bolt of Chain's
To get
effect.
half of Bolt of Change's effect. How
I say
crazy is that?
scrolls because if you don't take the scrolls, it's very unreliable.
Yeah,
To
you're
get the
not you're
9
not
stuff,
often
at least
gonna
you
roll
don't.
a 9. And it's an unmodified 9. So
Yeah.
you've got to actually roll the 9.
Whereas Bolt just needs the 7, and it can be modified in as many ways as you want. So,
It's fantastic because when you partner it with the fact that maybe we've got the Tzeentch Warp Storm table in there, the Tzeentch Warp Storm for the +1 to cast on all psychers
yeah,
is great with something like this. Like imagine you're doing this with a Fate Skimmer who's got a
yeah,
retinue of horrors for 5 points, which means he's already got +1 to cast, and then you use that Tzeentch Warp Storm ability, and now he's got +2 to cast his powers. He only needs to roll a 5, and Bolt of Change goes off, and it can do a hell of a lot of damage, and that's why I think it's one of the. That's why I think it is probably the best offensive power in the game, is that it's cast so low. You
yeah.
only have to roll a 5 or a 6 if you're clever about it, and its ability is phenomenal. Now, Imagine someone like Fate Weaver in like turn 3 trying to cast this. In turn 3, he has +3 to cast. Then you use the Tzeentch Warp Storm and he's got +4 to cast. All of a sudden, he rolls a 3 and it goes off.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
crazy is that? You get like one of the
35
best offensive powers off in the game for like on a 3.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So that's absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Boon is okay. Boon is okay. Personally, I only think it's good on a Lord of Change or Fate Weaver. Someone that can get +3 or +4 to cast quite a lot of the game for, like a big amount of the game, because you really want to be able to cast that on a 9. And it's not unmodified. It's just a psychic result of a 9. So it can be modified because you then get to choose the effect of the table. Because essentially, guys, you cast this power and then you have to roll a d3 and apply the result to a unit. So you can either give a unit, if you roll a 1 on a d3, if you roll a 1, then the unit gets +2 inch to their move. If you roll a 2, they get +1 to their strength. And if you roll a 3, they get +1 to their toughness.
Yeah, you really don't want the 1. The 2 is situational. The 3 is what you want most of the time.
Yeah, so it really depends on what it is. Like if your opponent's got a lot of strength, a lot of toughness 3, then you're probably going to want to use a +1 strength on your flamers to make them strength 6. Or if they've got a lot of toughness 5, then you want to do that again to make them strength 6 and then moon on 3s instead of 4s. Amazing breakpoints it has on your flamers, so I like that. But then the toughness on your Lord of Change or Chaos Fate Weaver makes them toughness 8, and then they are even harder to kill than they already are. So I think that's phenomenal. But like I say, I think it's okay as a power because you want it on the bigger guys. You don't really want to be casting it with someone who has to try to roll an 8 or something, to get the +1. So it's good, but it's not super reliable. Treason of Tzeentch is okay. Don't see it very often. Don't see it happen
I've
very
never
often. It's very situational.
Got a lot of better options.
Yeah. Infernal Gateway and Infernal Flames are brilliant. Infernal Gateway, it's better for the fact that it's there rather than when you actually use it. Like sometimes when you use it, it's not that great. Sometimes you use it and you're like, that didn't really do anything. However, the threat of what it can do means you should always take it.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And then, and also the way that it forces your opponent to deploy and move their army is crucial. And Infernal Flames is... Sorry, what'd you say, bro?
Like I said, Gateway is such a threat to characters because you want to be 3 inches together, but then that means all your characters could be taking 3 mortal wounds each, and you don't want that.
That's what it is, man. That's what it comes down to.
Change can also target, so when you pair those two together,
Yeah, for sure. Characters can end up getting sniped just by those 2 powers. I think Infernal Flames is MVP. That power is so bloody good. So bloody good. Just giving like a flamer unit +1 to wound is incredible. Like, it's so powerful. They're already a busted, broken unit. Flamers, that's one thing, guys. Let's just mention it now. Flamers are the best unit in the entire book.
One of the best right now. Best in the book. They're
100 million%. So anything that makes them better, you take.
Yeah.
So that's Infernal Flames for you. And then Gaze of Fate, I actually think is underrated. This is the underrated power. I think take it, guys. If you're going to run pure demons,
that's what I was going to say.
Include Gaze of Fate in your army, because retaining 2 Warp Storm points, I didn't think was that incredible. I didn't think it was very crucial, very good at all when I first started playing. But as you come to it and you're like, this turn I've used 4 of my 5 Warp Storm points, so there's 1 left. It's a shame that it just gets wasted next turn. Like, why not be able to retain that? Or if you start the turn with 4 Warp Storm and you've only used 2 because it's turn 1, and you're like, I'm going to lose the other 2 now. But it'd be great if you could cast the power and go, well, I'm keeping those 2. So next turn I'll have an average of 4 plus the 2, and I'll be having 6, and then you're going to see tricks coming out. That's when I think the Warp Storm becomes quite good.
What I think is great about Gaze of Fate is that if you look at the other parts of the book, there are ways of retaining through like warlord traits and relics, and those are pretty precious. But just having it on a psychic power, I think is so nice that you can just cast this every turn. Like have, as you say, have a caster to do this, because if it does go off, that's something that is going to be useful throughout the game if you're playing pure demons.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. Totally agree with you. You then have the warlord traits for them. Warlord traits are okay. I think there are only really 2 that are being looked at, and that's like Born of Sorcery, to give +1 to psychic test to your warlord. That's amazing, because like we said, if you've got like a Lord of Change, guys, he's already +2 to cast. this could make him +3 to cast. Your Tzeentch Warp
Base.
Storm could make him +4 to cast. And this guy is just an animal. Straight from turn 1. He's got +4 to cast on all of his powers. Or Incorporeal Form.
Which, on a Lord of Change, again, is very, very good.
Because it's each time an attack is made against the Warlord. Any attack.
Yeah.
You know, close combat as well. And that can actually help a lot, because a Lord of Change is one of the very few Tzeentch units in the book that actually gets a 5-up save in combat instead of a 6-up save. So already a little bit tougher than everyone else, but then being toughness 7 and -1 to wound, that's what makes them really tough.
Yeah, and with a possible threat of being T8, especially because, you know, Lord of Change, you can take Boone, because he's one of those that can get, as you say, +3, and then that makes it a lot more viable. And then a T8 with -1 to wound, that's
something, right? That. So he's they're hard to kill even in combat then, which is what you want to see, right? Now I think Fractal Mind is underrated. The you know, you if you attempt to perform a psychic action, you can still manifest 1 power. I think that's a phenomenal Warlord trait. It's great as a, and this is what we come back to, guys. It is great as a secondary or tertiary Warlord trait. But you can't take more than 1. So why would you ever look? This is the thing. Why would you look beyond Born of Sorcery or Incorporeal Form when you can only take 1? You wouldn't. Like, that Fractal Mind is great, but it's not better than the other 2. If you could take multiple, you would see this all the time.
Yep.
Doing an action and casting a power, you would see this You would see this Warlord trait in most lists if you could take more than 1 Warlord trait, which is why I think it's a shame that you can't. Right?
Yeah. I agree.
Right, so of course we know about what's doing really well in the meta right now with the Fate Skimmer and the Lord of Change and stuff like that. A couple of underrated units in this. The Blue Scribes. I think the Blue Scribes.
I've been saying.
Yeah, the coolness is one thing about them, how cool they are, but the ability to be able to duplicate powers is amazing. And these guys can, like we just said, Bolt of Change is one of the best, you know, things in the book. These guys are going to roll 2d6 in the psychic phase and look at the corresponding powers in the, you know, in the Tzeentch discipline and cast one of them automatically with no denies. That power cannot be denied. It goes off and it cannot be denied. That's a fantastic thing to have in your back pocket. And to think, if you roll something like Bolt of Change or Infernal Gateway and these guys can do it, and then somebody else can do it after, it's very good. And they are only 90 points. It's not like they're super expensive.
They're not. They're cheap for what they can do.
And my other one that I think is very underrated is Screamers.
Okay.
I really like Screamers. Now, yes, they are expensive. So that's the one thing where I get that I'm like, okay, you don't see them in very many lists because they're expensive. However, the Riders of the Immaterial Winds ability, where every time they, you know, advance, they can just be taken off the board and redeployed anywhere 9 inches away from the enemy. That is so crucial to making Reality Rebels very, very reliable, that I think it's definitely worth looking at 1 or 2 units of Screamers in your army. And that's why I think they're underrated, is you don't see them very often, but they help with that secondary incredibly well.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, as a person that has unfortunately had to face these a few times, thank you, Manny, they're harder to kill than you think.
Screamers are cool, man.
3-up save from shooting, and they can be like in the back corner of a board because they can teleport wherever they want.
Yes.
They can be really annoying to get rid of. So I think, and if you get like 2 turns use out of them or more, like they can really rack up. Like they can be worth their points.
Yeah, they can rack up the points. Yes,
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think with them. Is like, at first glance, you look at them and you go, okay, they look alright. Date sheet looks alright. They look okay tough as well. Not super, you know, nothing super. But then when you look at the points and go, it's 90 points. It's quite easy to go, 90 points, 3 of them, not worth it. But 9 wounds at toughness 4 with a 3-up unmodifiable save from ranged attacks, they are actually very good. Then they can teleport anywhere. They are core as well. They fly. I think they're very good.
Yeah, and they're so fast as well.
Yeah. And then, of course, we know that Flamers are the best unit in the book.
Yeah,
And then, guys, we come to the underrated books
Yeah.
in this codex. Now, the first two books, the Book of Blood and the Book of Change, they're obviously the best, and we wanted to cover them first because we want to talk about how good they are, why they're so good, but also some of the underrated things in there that if you're a
Yeah.
Tzeentch or Khorne player and you want to play pure Tzeentch or pure Khorne, a couple of things maybe you should look at. But now we come to the underrated books. Now, they're underrated for a reason. The other two just are better. So, the Book of Contagion. This is the Nurgle book,
Yeah.
and I was very disappointed and hurt by this because Nurgle is my favorite Chaos God. I
No,
love Nurgle. I think Nurgle's so cool, and obviously I am basically Nurgle. Look at me.
Yeah, I'm the only one who's not, apparently.
Yeah, so I'm basically Nurgle, and I absolutely love Nurgle. I think Nurgle is so cool, and when I saw this, like the codex for what it does for Nurgle, I was like, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in Nurgle.
Yeah.
Now, of course, what we've had a lot of requests for is somebody who likes to use the more underutilized sections of a codex. What's good for them? Now,
Yeah.
I do want to point out that not everything is lost for Nurgle. They're not
No, no.
completely terrible. It's
Yeah.
the reason why we're not seeing them on the tournament scene is that Khorne and Tzeentch together are better than Nurgle. That's why we're
Yeah.
not seeing them. It's not because Nurgle is terrible or rubbish. They're still good. They're still good, and there's some very good things for the Nurgle in this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they're not as good as the others.
Yeah.
That is the thing. Like, for example, we spoke about how good the retaining of warp storm points are. Now, bountiful gifts is an exalted trait you can take where you can retain 2 unspent warp storm points as well, which can be
Yeah.
quite good. But the downside of it is that ability can only go on a great and clean one, and they unfortunately are a little bit rubbish right now. And they're the main thing that's a detriment to the great and clean ones is the same problem they've always had, and that's their movement.
They're so slow.
Yeah, and when you look at their bases, Aaron, they're on like 100 mil bases or something, or maybe bigger, right?
130.
130 mil bases, right? So they're on absolutely huge bases. They already struggle to get around terrain.
Yeah.
And then they're given like a 6-inch or 7-inch move. Like, where are they supposed to go and what are they supposed to do with that? I don't get it.
What's sad is you might be like, oh, okay, we'll manifest them in. And fair enough, but they don't even actually hit that hard.
Not really, man. Not really.
You know, like, they're meant to be very resilient, and I get that. And they are T9, they have a lot of wounds, but they just don't really do anything. You can kind of just ignore them. If they're on the board, they may never get anywhere. And if they come in for manifestation, they won't necessarily do too much. So it's kind of sad for them.
Yeah, I don't think they do very much at all, to be honest. I don't think they're incredible, or anything like that, by any means.
Not for their points.
Which is a shame. Which is a
Yeah.
shame, because the others are so good. Like
Yeah.
a Bloodthirster and a Lord of Change are like absolute animals. And then the Great and Clean one's just there like, yeah.
They
I'm
all have a
slow.
thing.
Yeah, they all have a thing. And the Great and Clean one's thing is, he's slow.
He's slow. He's
I mean,
big and slow.
Toughness 9 is something to be said. There's something to be said for Toughness 9 and 22 wounds,
But
That's
I think
great.
the big issue, there's a lot of things in the game now that just have +1 to wound, or reroll wounds, or things like that, or mortal wounds that just get through toughness. There's a lot of ways through toughness now that I don't think people see at first glance. So you might see big toughness 9, that's great. But then you start hitting them with strength 5 weapons with +1 to wound, and you're winning them on 4s.
I do agree with you, bro. I do agree with you.
You're
And that's
like,
why you like,
oh, okay.
yeah, exactly. And that's where you're like, it's not that good. But however, one of the I think the strongest unit in Nurgle is actually a Demon Prince. Now, I know the Demon Princes are in the Book of the Warp. They're in the Book of the Warp, which is like the Undivided book. However, you could take a Demon Prince and you can give it a mark. And then it becomes of that god, of course. So you could take a Demon Prince, give it the mark of Nurgle, and then it gets what? Is it +1 toughness?
It's
Yes.
toughness.
So you go to toughness 7. You have a toughness 7 Demon Prince, which is good,
Mhm.
and you have 6 attacks, a weapon skill 2. Now the reason why I say he is probably the best thing in Nurgle is a Demon Prince with wings moves 12 inches.
Yeah.
Now That's one thing that Nurgle in general lack, is maneuverability. Now he moves 12 inches and he can still charge after that. And the main thing for me is you can make him a combat animal. Because
Oh
the
yes.
the best warlord trait in this book, in my opinion, is virulent touch.
You mean filthy touch, yeah?
The filthy touch, as I like to call it. I put that on my demon prince and I call it the filthy touch. But yeah, virulent touch I think is the best warlord trait, and that is every time this warlord makes a melee attack, if a hit is scored, the target is automatically wounded, unless it's Titanic, which is understandable. But most of the things that you're going to fight in the game will not be Titanic, and when fighting those things, just he's got 6 attacks and he hits on 2s, so you're like, all right, he's going to get 5 hits most likely. And like we said, there aren't very many stratagems in this codex that you're going to use. So quite often you can go 6 dice, I'm going to roll them one at a time, and whichever one's 1, I'll just re-roll it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of the time, he is reliably, averagely getting 6 hits. 6 hits on an enemy, right? And this is with his sword. And a Demon Prince's sword is minus 3 AP and flat 3 damage, I believe.
Yep.
Is that correct? Is it minus 3?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
swords 3.
Strength 8, which obviously doesn't matter much because we're auto
Auto
wounded, but we're minus 3 flat 3 damage with 6 attacks, right? And that's what
Yeah.
you get for virulent touch. But you want to partner it further with the corruption relic. So you want to give him the warlord trait, virulent touch, and you also want to give him the relic corruption. Now, the relic is you select one melee weapon the bearer is equipped with, so his sword, and you add one to the damage characteristic of that weapon. So it's a damage 4 sword now, right?
Yep.
But also, each time an attack is made with this weapon that's allocated to a model, that model cannot use any rules to ignore the wounds it loses. Which means they cannot use feel no pain and stuff like that. They cannot use phase caps. So, you know, something like if your opponent's got a bloodthirster that can only take 8 wounds of phase. No, that doesn't work. You just ignore that. Abaddon or a Catan that can only take 3 wounds of phase. This guy just goes, I got 3 hits on you, Abaddon. You're dead. You know? Or you look at like a Nightbringer and you go, yeah, oh sorry, not 3 hits. 3 went through because you know you're gonna go to something like Abaddon and go, I've got 6 wounds on you, mate. That's 6 saves. And they fail 3 and you're like, there's 12 damage.
Yeah.
And your face cap doesn't count. And the same to like a Catan. You'll walk up to a Catan and go, there you go, 6 saves. And they'll go, oh, pass 3, fail 3, and you go, well, that's 12 damage, and
yeah, the Catans just
straight
go
through your face cap. It's crazy, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Having that Demon Prince in Nurgle is great, but he is, in my opinion, the best thing.
Yeah, and the biggest issue with him, and the only reason why I don't think he's in every list, is because again you get only one warlord trait. So you know, if you're taking him, then virulent touch it needs to be on him again. Like the virulent touch corruption is such a good combo, but then it means that you're bloodthirsty, your order change, they're not getting any warlord traits.
Yeah.
And obviously like if you take unless you take Be'lakor, you cannot take the greater demons and without them being warlords. If you take the demon prince as well, so. I think, as you said, I know you've been building a small like demon army,
Baby
like you don't take any
demons!
demons.
Yeah.
And I think he's a very good choice in a style of list like that because he becomes, as you said, almost like a greater demon in damage himself. You know.
Yeah. And that's the thing, guys, is we're talking here about things that you can take if you really like Nurgle, for example. That's what we're trying to do here. Now here's something you can take because the greater demons of Nurgle you're probably not going to want to take.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's why you would probably take it.
Unfortunately,
exactly.
not. Hopefully soon.
Exactly.
Hopefully soon. But you know.
So that's my pick of something that you could take if you wanted to take Nurgle. Aaron, do you have one? Do you think there's something particularly good?
Beast of Nurgle. Now they are very expensive for what they do. They're 80 points a model.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that a unit of a couple of them, or one of them, or two, like they can be hard to kill for some armies, especially on access to mortal wounds.
And you said how many points are they?
80. That's the big issue with them. They are very expensive, I think.
Okay. So these are beasts.
These are beasts of Nurgle, yes. The fact is that just for their ability, being able to, at the end of the phase, full regain all their wounds, when they are 7 wounds at T6 with a 4-up save against ranged, like that it's still quite tough. And if you don't kill that unit fully, there's any model that's damaged, will just full heal. For a unit that can be pushed into a quarter or pushed into the center of the board, for things like Reality Rebels, I think they are very resilient. The only issue is there are a lot of mortal wounds in the game that can get through any toughness, and also they're a big investment. A unit of 3 is 240 points. That's getting into greater demon territory in terms of points. Small great demons. But I think that if you do want to take Nurgle, the rest of the book, because obviously the Demon Prince isn't even in the book of Nurgle. It's
so
a shame.
To me, I actually disagree with you slightly there, bro.
Really?
Yeah. So I like the Beast of Nurgle. Like I get what you're saying, and the one thing they have going for them is that whole if you don't kill a model in a phase, it'll regain to full. But if you're going for them, you're going to kill a model. You won't even target them unless you should be killing one of them because of that rule that they have, right? Now, the reason why I have to disagree with you is they move 6 inches.
Yeah.
They move 6 inches, and they are toughness 6 with 7 wounds each. That's quite good. Toughness 6 with 7 wounds each is quite good, but they move 6 inches, right?
Yeah.
But I want to avert your attention to plague drones. And this is why I think that Beasts of Nurgle are not a great choice. Because plague drones essentially double move. They have a 10-inch move characteristic. They are also toughness 6. Now, this is one thing I didn't realize. I thought beasts were tougher, but they're not. Plague drones are toughness 6. Now, they only have 5 wounds each, not 7. However, 2 plague drones is 90 points, and 1 beast is 80.
Yeah.
So the plague drones are only 10 points more for 2 of them. They have an additional 4-inch move and 3 more wounds.
Yeah, they're very good.
So I actually think the plague drones are a way better choice.
Okay.
But plus, they have the plague bearer keyword, meaning they can be selected for some stratagems that beasts can't.
And
they are
true.
also core.
Yeah. If you've got some other Nurgle stuff there, the core becomes more important as well.
Yeah, so for that reason, I actually think the plague drones edge it for me.
I like the heroic intervention as well, being able to knock off an objective with the beasts, because there are 6-inch heroics, which is on the big fat base that they have, quite nice.
Yeah.
But I do hear the speed and the extra, like the added keywords and things you get with the plague drones definitely is worth a look as well.
Yeah, because of course you get like the death heads, which is a shooting attack as well. You get some shooting in there with blast on there. You also get the foul mouth parts, which are malefic 2, which can do quite a bit of damage. But then you also have the plague sword on the guy himself, which is quite good as well. So I quite like the fact that you can have all of these things on these models, because for example, you look at that Beast of Nurgle in terms of, like, we just looked at survivability, and the plague drones are slightly more survivable than the Beast of Nurgle. However, when you look at output as well, I know they have the unmodified hit roll of a 6, inflicts 2 mortal wounds, but they have 6 attacks. So they should get 3 hits a lot of the time. 3 hits a lot of the time, right? 2 of them should do more wounds. 1 of them should do more wounds, sorry, because you should have 1/6 in there. So they get essentially 2 mortal wounds and then 2 hits at strength 6 minus 2 damage.
Yeah.
But if you compare that to 2 plague drones, they get 2d3 shots. They also then get 4 attacks with plague swords, where every 6 automatically wounds the target at minus 2/1 damage. But then they also get 4 malefic attacks at strength 5 minus 2 damage as well. I actually think they're slightly ahead in terms of the damage output as well. So when you look at the fact that they're slightly ahead in terms of damage output, slightly ahead in terms of how tough they are, have the plague bearer keyword, and they core and can fly, plus they move twice as much as the beast, I think that edges it for me.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people aren't using them. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I do see quite a few people use beasts, and I see the value. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I see the value of taking beasts if you're running, Nurgle. But plague drones, in my opinion, are so good, slightly better than Beasts of Nurgle, and you don't see them anywhere. So that was my, I really wanted to just say that, guys. If you're, if you're a Nurgle player and you want to be using Nurgle, have a look at the plague drones. They're actually very good. So I quite like that. But also, I believe that you can make them tougher as well, or am I wrong in saying?
I believe it's a spell. Is it a spell you can put on them because of the plague bearer core?
So
Abundance.
Fleshy Abundance. Yeah, Demonica Nurgle core unit can get +1 to their toughness. So all of a sudden, these guys can be toughness 7.
Yeah. which is very good.
Now they're tougher than the beasts by a long
Mhm.
shot.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and obviously it's only on a core unit, so you can't even do that on beasts. So I actually quite like that. And then when you partner that with the fact that you can cast Virulent Blessing on them, and then they add on to the damage characteristic of all their melee weapons.
yeah. I think if you're going to take like more Nurgle, I think that's where Plague Drones really shine.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think they're actually very good.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you also do have where was it? I believe there's a stratagem.
Hmm?
I think I was looking at it. The crushing bulk as well, yeah. This is that use this stratagem after a plague drones, beasts of Nurgle, or great and clean one unit finishes a charge move, and it does mortal wounds basically in combat on rolls
Oh
of
yeah.
sixes, and that works on beasts and plague drones. And I don't really see very many people using it, so that's something really cool that I wanted to talk about. And also another thing, guys, is we just talked about which one's tougher, the beasts of Nurgle or the plague drones. Now it looks like the plague drones are slightly tougher. But when we use Fleshy Abundance, it makes them even tougher. They become toughness 7. However, we are all aware of things in the game like Blood Angel Death Company with hammers. They come in and they go, we're strength 8 with +1 to wound.
Yeah, I
So
just saw
we're
this.
winning you on 2s. Even if you're
I
a
just
Plague
saw this.
Drone, we're winning you on 2s. And then you go, well, actually they have the Plague Bearer keyword, so I'm going to use Revolting Constitution, which is essentially transhuman for a Plague Bearer unit. And that's another argument for taking the Plague Drones over the beasts.
Oh, I'm convinced. You've
Right?
convinced me.
Convinced
I'm
now,
convinced.
right? See, there was quite a few things that I was looking at, and I was like, actually, because we've had so many requests to do the demon book, especially, and then we've had requests of people saying, what would we take that if we don't want to go mainstream? I was looking into the book in quite a lot of detail, and I think that's something that's definitely worth it in a
I'm
Nurgle
a
army.
big drone enjoyer now.
And then finally we have the Book of Excess. We're not really going to talk about the Book of the Warp because we all know Be'lakor is incredible, and the
Very
Demon
good.
Prince is like good to add to lists, and also that the Soul Grinder is just phenomenal value for points right now.
Oh, for one
We've
reason, yeah.
seen them do very, very well. So that book is just very good. The Book of the Warp is just great, but it can be added to all the other sections to make them stronger. So the last book is the Book of Excess. Now, what do you think to this book here, Aaron?
The first thing I want to say is everything moves so fast.
Yeah.
Everything in Slanette, like if you take another look at it and you go, okay, well, how much are the Demonettes? Oh, they move 10 base. And you go, how much are the Keepers? 16. Like this book is fast.
They have speed in abundance, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's why we do see a lot of this taking like a couple of units of Demonettes or some Fiends as well, because speed is pretty key in the game, especially again things like React Rebels and any mission secondaries that rely you on getting on points at certain points in the game. Having the speed to do it is very good.
Yeah.
How do you think about this, Slanesh? Then, what do you think of the biggest strengths in the book?
I quite like them. I like the Mark of Excess relic. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Gives +1 attack to the bearer. Then every time they kill a character, monster, or vehicle, they get a +1 to their attack that stays there. I think that's very good.
Soul Stealer is very good. I think Soul Stealer's always been very good.
Yeah, Soul Stealer's always been very good.
Yeah.
Shalaxi's okay. Okay. I think a regular keeper's better than Shalaxi, in my opinion.
They're very similar. I guess the
Just
keeper
because
when
you
you
can
can
tool
get
them
with
a
the
bit.
Warlord trait and relics.
Yeah.
What makes the keeper better than
Yeah, and
Shalaxi.
that's where the keeper edges it for me is the Warlord traits and relics you can put on them. I like the fact that they're -1 to be hit.
Yep.
And it's always now, right? Just mesmerizing form. Each time an attack is made against his model, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll.
Yeah, and then if you hurt someone with their sword, then they become -1 to wound the actual unit. So like
Exactly.
they can do pretty well in duels and things like that.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about them is it's always before the -1 to hit was against one thing only, but now it's range attacks and melee attacks, which
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
is absolutely incredible. Of course, if you put the Shining Aegis on them as well, they have a save characteristic of 4+4+.
Which you probably will in all case scenarios.
Yeah, I think it's very good having that Shining Aegis on them. Giving them a 4+ against shooting attacks, against combat is very, very good. Especially because they're -1 to hit and toughness 7. That can keep them alive a lot longer than you'd expect. But
yeah,
one thing I've always loved about Keepers is how good they are in combat. And I like that has stayed. You know, they are the Wit Stealer sword. It's 6 attacks. They have 6 attacks. At strength 8 -3/3 damage. Strength 8 -3/3 damage.
always
But
good.
then they get an additional 4 Malefic, which are strength 6, but -4 flat 3 damage as well. So he has 10 attacks that are flat 3 damage. Now, 6 of them are strength 8, but they're only -3. But the other 4 are strength 6, but then they're -4 and malefic. So Armor of Contempt doesn't work against them.
And flat 3 malefic. Like -4, 3 malefic is like
beast, right? That's really cool. So I really like how hard the keepers hit. A lot of the rest, like Infernal Rapturous, Mask of Slaanesh, I don't really see the value in a lot of them. Celeste, I think, has gotten a lot worse, and the Contorted Epitome to the last book, which is such a shame. But I think the highlight of this book, right, is Chariots. Now, why don't you tell us a bit more about these, Aaron? Because I know you love these Slaanesh chariots.
Chariots are so cheap. Like, you look at them in the book, and the cheapest one, the Seeker, is 65 points. Then it's 75 and 85, and you pay a little bit more for the character versions. And what you get is actually really good. Like, if you look at the Seeker Chariot, so this is a 65-point unit, which is very cheap. I think it's like one of the cheapest units in the book, because Blue Horrors are 70.
Yeah.
I think it's just them and, like, Nurglings, for example. And you get 14-inch move on this chariot, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3-up, strength 4, toughness 5 with 7 wounds, and a 4-up, 4-up. For 65 points, and then they have 8 attacks at strength 4 -2/1 damage, and do mortals in the charge, and a -1 to hit from shooting.
I like the 4-up, 4-up as well. I really like the 4-up, 4-up on the chariot.
4-up is really good for these little units that are really cheap.
They're cheap, yeah.
So fast, you know. Again, like we're saying, things like Reality Rebels and everything like that, having this 65-point unit that moves 14 can then advance as well to get into locations that is -1 to be hit with a 4-up save and 7 wounds. It's like that, you get a lot for the price cost, right?
Yeah.
And with these sort of chariots as well, you could pay a bit extra to give them the actual, like, the herald, so they get access to psychic as well and character protection because they're less than 10 wounds.
Yeah.
Like, I think chariots are a little hidden gem, and if you actually look at a lot of lists, especially in Europe and stuff, that are doing well with demons, there's always like 1 or 2 like chariots, a Hellflayer, or a Seeker Chariot in there, because I think for playing the mission, they're really, really good.
Yeah, they're really good for playing the mission. Reality Rebels, they help with a lot, right?
Oh,
so they're the hidden gem of Slaanesh. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Having the 4-up, 4-up, like you say, as well, is great.
They have a stratagem as well called Race Through the Warp, which is that you use this in the command phase. You select a Slaanesh vehicle unit, which will be like the chariot, and you move it from the battlefield and place it into strategic, and it's in your command phase. So, as per the rules, I believe you can put this in the command phase, and in the same turn, bring it in from strategic reserves, which actually allows you to really get a lot of maneuverability up the board with all these chariots, because they can really, like, it's not quite as good as like teleporting a herald, but it's a similar idea of being able to get around the board.
For sure, for sure. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And there you have it, guys. That is our faction focus of the Chaos Daemons and what things in each book are really good, which books are really good, which sections of the codex are very good, which sections are not as good, but you could take if you're an enthusiast of said god. You know, if you like Nurgle, take that prince. Take the Filthy Touch Prince. Filthy Touch Prince for the win. And also, the final thing I wanted to say is the tiers.
Oh, yeah.
The tiers. Where do you think they come in the tier list, Aaron?
Okay, so I know we slightly differ. I would put Khorne at the top in general, but I see the argument for Tzeentch at the top. I think they're both 1 and 2.
But the book in general, Aaron. The
book?
Chaos Demon. Where would you put that in the tier list?
Oh yeah. I think they're one of the top armies right now. I think Flamers is a big reason they're doing very well. But I still think that they are an A-tier book. I think that, like I say, they have a very good secondary and other secondary options as well, which definitely puts them in that tier. And then I think as well that they play the other missions very well. They can do banners very well, psychic secondaries very well. They have a lot of killing power as well. And they have a decent amount of survivability. And they have flamers. So, I think they are a solid army doing really well.
I totally agree with you. I think they're A-tier as well. I don't think they quite join... the likes of Thousand Suns plus Flamer. Well, if you count them as the Flamer section, then they are S tier in the Thousand Suns plus Flamers.
Codex Flamers is
S tier. Codex Flamers is S tier with Thousand Suns. However, I don't think they quite joined Thousand Suns plus Flamers combo
Yeah.
or Harlequins, for example, on the S tier. I don't think they're up there, but I think they're on A tier in the fact that they can give anybody a good game. They have the tools to be able to do so if you've built your list properly. And like you say, their secondary game is so good. So I definitely agree with you on that as well. Now, guys, I do just want to say, if you have any gems in the demon book that you've been using or that you've discovered and you think are very, very useful that maybe you'd like to share with everyone else, please leave them in the comments below so other people can learn as well and we can all grow together by sharing our knowledge, you know? So if you found any gems, please leave them in the comments below. And man, if you think of something that I haven't thought of, you'll definitely see it on a battle report, me rocking it on a battle report, because I love demons and I think they're absolutely awesome. And guys, if you've watched this far and you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, notifications bell in the bottom corner right now so that you know each time we release one of these videos. And like it's been saying all, you know, underneath our video the entire time, if you're enjoying this style of content, you'd like more exclusive content, amazing discounts off our web store, or if you'd just like to support the channel because you like what we do here, then head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. And watch out, guys, this week is the release of our first ever casual battle report, because a lot of people have requested us to do casual battle reports as well as our competitive ones because they like the way that we just take the mick out of each other. So if you're into that and you just want to have a laugh, watch our Christmas clash between Eldari and pure Tzeentch demons this Friday. See you later, guys. Take care.
Live stream Warhammer 40k games, meta-analysis, tournament reports. Hi guys, I'm Manny. I am one of the co-founders of Glasshammer Gaming. I'm one of the current top 5 ranked ITC players in the world, and I play for my international team, Team England, and we are the current reigning world champions. So we started Glasshammer Gaming at the start because we play a very high level, and we realized that a lot of content creators online were more narrative and not really focused on the competitive aspect of the game, and we thought it'd be really cool if we made battle reports, live streams and tactics videos to help players improve in their competitive game, and also for people who are looking to start getting into competitive play, help them along the way and give them some tips. We also have an elite service, and if you join up, you get more in-depth meta-analysis, competitive tournament reports, and even bigger discounts on our store, which are incredible in the first place, and you're basically getting some of the best discounts in the world. If you join up, you also get access to our Discord server, where there are lots of like-minded people who also want to be very competitive and play to the best of their ability, and you'll be added in there with all of them. There are different channels for every army, every faction, so you can talk to other players who play the same armies as you and improve together.